Hello, my name is Sid. In this video, I'm going to show step-by-step tutorial on how to use Essofore in AWS. So what is Essofore? Essofore is a document store powered by a semantic search engine that understands the meaning of your query rather than searching for keywords in your query. And you can use it to develop enterprise search or RAG applications. In order to provision a new EC2 instance of Essofore, you can do that from this product page by clicking on View Purchase Options. In my case, I have already done some steps before and I had subscribed to the software beforehand. In your case, you will first have to click some buttons to accept the subscription. Once you have subscribed to the software, you continue to configuration. And here we will leave the defaults and then continue to launch. And in the instance type, I'm going to choose a smaller instance since this is just a demo. And I'm going to click on this button, create new security group based on seller settings. So you will see that the port 8080 has been opened and this is where the SO4 web server runs. And I'm going to call it my security group. And I'm going to save this. Yeah, so it says that we are unable to create security group because it already exists. So let me create another one. And you should add a key pair using which you are going to SSH into the machine. After that, you can click on launch. And now let's view this instance in our EC2 console. And before we can SSH into this instance, we need to open port 22. And we will do that over here. So we can go to the security group and we can edit inbound rules. And we have to add a rule 22.00 save rules. And now we will be able to SSH into this instance. And you do that by copying this command. And I don't know why it shows root. This should be EC2 user. So let's come over here. And in my case, I don't need that. I do need to change this to EC2-user. We will accept. And now we are logged into the instance. And the Essofore web server should already be running over here. And we can check that by executing this command sudo systemctl status so4.service. And you can see that the service is actually running. And you can stream the logs in real time by executing this command sudo. Actually, you don't need sudo, you just need kernel ctl -u so4 -f. And this will show you the logs in real time. Now, let us open another terminal, EC2-user, connect to this again. And I can start, for example, executing some commands. So yeah, it seems that the service is running fine. We can also run sstpln, and it shows that some process is listening on port 8080, which is the Essofore web server. Um, so let me rewind back for a moment. This is the Essofore developer documentation, and all the operations that can be done on the database are exposed through a REST API. And I'm going to show that REST API over here. So these are all the operations that can be done on the database. And this is an open API compliant endpoints, and you can see the open API schema which we support over here. This schema can be input to open API generators who can generate client-side code for you. Um, so now let me show how to use the database to add some documents to it and then perform some searches. And to do that, we are going to go through this developer documentation. We already have our web server running, and I'm going to now install the client. And for purposes of demo, I'm going to install the client on the same VM on which the server is running. But in real world, your client would be running on a different machine. Think of SO4 as very much like a database like MySQL or Postgres. So you will have like a server instance which is going to run the database, and then there would be a backend service which would make or services which would be connecting to the database. So let us begin by installing pipex and poetry, which we will need. And to install pipex and poetry on Amazon Linux, we go through these instructions. So first we need to install pip, and we do that over here. Then we need to install pipex and do that over here. and then we install Poetry. First, we create a virtual environment for Poetry, which is important. Then we activate this virtual environment. Finally, pipx install Poetry. Now we are going to deactivate the Poetry virtual environment and log in again so that all our paths are refreshed. So at this point, next we need to download the client, and you can do that by downloading the zip file, which I will do. And then I'm going to unzip it. So then I will enter over here. So this client repo that we provide you consists of two projects, CLI and SO4 client. The SO4 client is a Python client library using which you can execute queries against the database, against the server. And the CLI is a command line program which uses the SO4 client library to provide a command line interface to the database. It is very much similar to the MySQL command line client or the Postgres CLI. So let me now go to the CLI folder, and you can see there is a file by project.toml which contains the dependencies required by this project, and over here you can see SO4 client is a dependency. So we are going to run Poetry install, which will install all the dependencies the CLI requires, and in particular it will install the SO4 client. Notice that I did not activate any virtual environment when I ran Poetry install. Now we will run Poetry shell, which will create a new shell for us in which all these dependencies are available to us. Next, I'm going to descend into a CLI subdirectory, and now I can run the CLI program, and we do that by running Python CLI py, and we need to provide it the endpoint where the server is running, which in our case is localhost 8080. So let's run this, and now the CLI has connected to the server. And if I do inspect catalog, I see that right now the database is empty. There is no documents in it. So we'll begin by adding some documents to the database. And there are two ways to add document to the database. One is by uploading a document to the server. This is the option to use when you are adding private documents to the database. If you want to add public documents to the database which are accessible via a public URL, there is another option which is to tell the server to download the document for you. Both these options, upload and download, are documented in this developer documentation. Um, and I'm going to take a shortcut over here, and there is a file shakespeare.txt, and it has the commands to create a collection and then to add a document to the collection using a public URL. So I'm just going to run both these commands using this command called playback. And it created the collection, and now it's going to add the document to the collection, which is this second command. Now, while it's adding the document to the collection, I am going to do some other stuff. So I'll connect to the server again, and now I'm going to create this directory. Next, I'm going to download some documents to my local drive. So for the demo, I'm downloading public documents, but in real world, think of these as private documents of your enterprise or company. And I'll show how to add the private documents as well. So we have these documents. Again, I'm going to call poetry shell and python3 cli.py host. So again, we are connected to the server, and now I'm going to run the commands in this other file, sherlockholmes.txt. I can do that. By running this command. Now this is an example Python code that you would be writing in order to interact with the database. And you would use the client library which is provided to you. And here, for example, is how you create a new collection. You provide a collection ID, the title. A collection serves as a container of related documents. So whenever you perform a search, you perform search against a collection, which will search the documents contained within that collection. And to add a document to the collection, uh, you would create, in this case, I'm opening a file on disk, but let's say your document is stored in S3 or it could be in SharePoint or Confluence. You will fetch the document from the URL, and once you have a binary stream, then you use that stream to upload the document to the server. Note, you do not have to save the document to your local disk in order to add it to the server. You open the connection to the binary stream and you pipe it to the server. And you can understand more on how to use the client library by studying the code under commands. So this is the Python code using which you can create a collection. Then this is the code to delete a collection, and so on. This is the code to delete a document. Here is the code to that shows you how to inspect a collection and so on. And uh, remember, you are not limited to Python. We provide you the client library in Python, uh, but since the server exposes a REST API, you can use any other programming language. and make HTTP REST calls to the database to perform the operations that you want to perform. So by the way, there is one very important step that I skipped over in the demo, but that you should definitely do in actual real world, which is that when you are creating your EC2 instance, you should always create a new volume and attach the volume to the EC2 instance, because uh, if you don't do that, the EC2 instance only comes with a 8 GB disk, and your data would likely exceed that. So you should always create a EVS volume and attach it to the EC2 instance, and that way you can also your data is separate and you can detach it and attach it to another machine. And AWS has documentation on how to attach EVS volume. It's documented over here, and there are also steps on how to mount the volume. I'm not going to cover that in this video as that's like outside the scope, this one. But this is pretty important to do in real world.